Hello, my name is Catherine Sharp. I'm going to be giving a brief informative speech over chocolate. So by show of hands, how many people here love chocolate? Everybody. So during my speech, I'm going to cover a few brief topics: the history of chocolate, the production of chocolate, as well as some of the health benefits of chocolate. First, we're going to look into the history of chocolate. For most of chocolate's 4,000 years, it has been known as the food of the gods. Some of the early anthropologists believed in pre-almanac cultures that pre-almanac cultures introduced chocolate as early as 1900 BC. Chocolate only began its consumption from Mesoamericans as a bitter drink. The Mayans and the almanacs also believed that this bitter drink would be a mood enhancer as well as an aphrodisiac. So the Mayans and the Aztecs began to worship the god of cocoa. Some countries sought out the cocoa bean so much so that they exchanged currency in their tradings for cocoa beans. In early 1828, a Dutch chemist, Conrad Johannes van Houten, invented the cocoa press, which the cocoa press would squeeze the fatty cocoa butter from the bean and leave behind the cocoa powder that we know today. This made it more affordable for the average layman to afford the cocoa powder. In 1847, the first solid edible bar was invented by J.S. Fry and Sons. It was a mix of cocoa butter, powder, and sugar. It was still pretty bitter, but it was more available to the layman. In 1897, Randolph Lindt, which of Lindt chocolate that we still know today, invented the conching machine, which gave chocolate that velvety, melt in your mouth texture that we all know today. This aided in mass production, and it was able to be shipped worldwide. So I'll move over into, this is a picture of the cocoa press. This is Conrad van Houten and his early cocoa press that he had invented. So here's kind of a fun fact that I threw in here. The average American consumes over 12 pounds of chocolate yearly, and more than $75 billion are spent on chocolate annually worldwide. So I'm going to go into the production of chocolate. Chocolate is a two-step process: the harvesting to drying process and then the shipping to manufacturing process. The cocoa starts from harvesting it out in the forest. Cocoa comes from tropical trees in the wetlands and rainforest. They're not anywhere here in the United States. We don't have anywhere wet enough to harvest the cocoa. The cocoa is harvested manually with laboring workers with machetes. They go out and cut them off of the trees. When the cocoa pod is ready, it's about the size of a football and it's yellowish to orangish in color. Once all the cocoa pods are harvested off of the trees, they then take them to a harvest house. At the harvest house, the laborers then split open the cocoa pod and remove all of the beans from them. Inside of the cocoa pod, there's upwards of about 50 beans in each pod. And surprisingly, the beans are not brown. Whenever they first come out, they're more of like a whitish brown color. After that, the beans go into a fermentation process. They're then placed in heat for 5 to 8 days and covered up with banana leaves during this time. And the workers come by every couple of days and stir them to make sure they're all equally fermented. After the fermentation process is done, they're then left out in the sun to dry for up to a week. During this time, the workers come and just rearrange them and stir them around to make sure they're all dried adequately. After the drying process is done, they're all then bagged up and shipped off to manufacturing plants worldwide. This is where the process begins to make the edible chocolate bars that we know today. So from the shipping process, once they get to the manufacturer, the beans are first roasted to the desired flavor. For a more darker chocolate, they're roasted longer. For the more milk chocolate, they're roasted less. After the roasting process is done, they're then grinded into cocoa nibs, which are really small little fine particles. After they're nibs, they then pass through a straining process, which is called winnowing. Winnowing separates the cocoa nibs from small to large, and they get them sorted to size. After that, the nibs are then grinded further into cocoa liqueur. The liqueur is then mixed with sugars and cocoa or different butters to make the chocolate that we know today: milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and white chocolate. Then they're molded and cooled and packaged up and shipped out to retailers worldwide. So I put some pictures up here of what the cocoa looks like whenever they're harvested. And then this is a picture of the molding process. The cocoa liqueur is over here and going to be molded and then cooled. So I added in some health benefits that I researched on chocolate. In the Journal of Nutrition, they suggested that daily consumption of chocolate can lower your LDL levels, which is your bad cholesterol levels. I also read a study from the Harvard Medical School. They said that drinking 2 cups of hot cocoa daily, would aid in cognitive function in the elderly people. I also read a research that was published in the BMJ that suggested that eating chocolate daily could also lower your risk of heart disease by 1/3. This is another study that was kind of hit home for me because I'm a mom of 3 kids. I read a study that in the 2016 pregnancy meeting of the Society for Maternal Health, that consuming 30 grams of chocolate daily could aid in your fetal growth and development. So, thank you so much. I really hope that everybody kind of got a deeper look into chocolate, and it'll kind of get your wheels spinning the next time you take a bite of chocolate on where it came from, where it's been, how it got there, and maybe some of the health benefits that you'll get from eating chocolate. Again, thank you so much.
Oh my God.